The Minnesota Timberwolves are in action this evening. It's a 6:30 tip-tap, taking on the New York Knickerbockers. Dante DiVincenzo will not play, thumb terrorism. And Karl Anthony Towns may not play. He also has some form of finger or hand injury. The last time the Timberwolves and Knicks met, it was quite ugly.
Oh, let's not. I don't want to relive that.
With the Wolves.
You were in attendance for that game.
Yeah, with my son.
Why would you do that to him?
Well, because I hearken to days that I took young Derek to 33 consecutive Timberwolves games before they finally won. And then when they beat the Atlanta Hawks, given it was a PA and Dubé bit that I believe you remember, well, we're going to the game tonight. Anybody wants to give the announcer money? We can stay at home. And then, after their 37th consecutive loss, over the course of like 5 seasons, starting to take Derek at like 5, maybe 4 seasons, they lost like 37 consecutive, and it was a choice radio bit for PA and Dubé back in the day, and it got so bad at one point where we were witnessing a Minnesota Timberwolves come from a head loss where they were beating Sacramento with 6 points with like 32 seconds left, and they lost the game. And people were dumbfounded. And this KFAN listening lady was sitting next to us, and she looked at me and said, "Have you guys ever considered the Wild?" I always love that line of the century.
That's so good.
Went to the next one. They beat Atlanta, and I hoisted my son. Just think Darnold locker room. I put Darnold on I put Derek
shoulders.
on my shoulders. We're walking out of the tunnel by the Wolves bench, and Jimmy K, king of the Rubes, who's had a season ticket there for 20 years, he rallies the K-fan-loving crowd to go, "Smiley, Smiley, Smiley,
that's
Smiley."
awesome.
And Derek put his fists up, and it was quite the father-son moment.
If you needed to hoist Derek onto your shoulders now, could you do it?
Could I,
could you
bend over, pick him up?
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Let's get that arm
you
thing
think you got
figured
it?
out.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't felt my ribs in 30 years, but plenty of core in the legs.
I
think
always
so?
love that one.
Lift with your legs, not your back.
Correct.
That's important.
Correct.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I believe I could. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, it is time for 9 to noon to massage elite football minds and handicap the 4 games in which the Vikings are not involved this weekend.
I always love that one.
And we will begin with Houston and Kansas City, and we are going to handle point spread, lead pipe cinch locks, and also release fantasy intel. For those of you of the daily fantasy variety, or maybe looking for pickups at guillotineleagues.com in your super special guillotines.
Yes.
I always love that one.
I'm in a guillotine and almost accidentally picked up a guy who was out of the tournament, but that's okay.
Don't do that.
Then I went to the PC, and everything was fine. All right, 3-2. So that's the approach, and here's what's going to happen, because Paul puts more time into this than Nordo and I, and he likes to talk longer about these things than Nordo and I.
I can be long-winded, I'm sorry.
Generally speaking, we only get to 2.5 out of 4 games.
Yeah, it's true.
So what's going to happen here is the host of 9 to Noon and the producer of 9 to Noon, we're going to go first and second every time.
That's
we're going to fly through this mug, and that's going to give you more time to opine, and massage your elite football mind.
Smart setup, really.
Houston at Kansas City, Saturday at 2:30. The Kansas City Chiefs are 8-point favorites, and here they are. Andy Reid off a bye, though. Let's not forget about old Big Red off a bye. It's like an 80% win cover. I like Houston to cover the first quarter, whatever it is. I like Houston in the first quarter. I like Kansas City -8 in the game. I have no fantasy opinion, and there they are. Nords?
I'm going with Houston to cover and I have it at 8.5 at this moment, but 8 or 8.5 earlier this year. It was a 27-19 affair at Arrowhead. They lost Tank Dell in that game. The Texans did. Save for a couple of C.J. Stroud turnovers. They were very game in that. They had struggles with stopping Kareem Hunt, but I like them in this playoff spot after getting over the hump against the Chargers. I think ultimately I would take Kansas City money line, but I'm thinking that the Houston Texans cover.
I think middle of the third quarter when Houston has 6 points, that's when the Texans fan base on social media starts to get really loud about their offensive coordinator, Bobby Slowick, having that Thursday head coaching interview with the Jets.
Do you think their version of Charge is going to go guard, center, wide receiver, guard, tackle?
They should, by the way.
Yeah, it's going to savage Bobby Slowick and the Jets saying, are you really considering giving this guy 1 year and $10 million? And that's going to be your signature offseason move? You're an embarrassment. So what about you in this game?
People wondered why I didn't delete that tweet.
Fantasy. Who deletes tweets? Yeah, people delete tweets, but anyway.
Well, you got to stand tall in your opinions, Charge. What you do?
I do.
Right.
I looked like a moron for 16 weeks, and then it came back to.
You laid on the sword for all who are of the same ilk.
The over-under is so low. It's 41.5.
Ooh.
And one team is getting 8 or 8.5.
Okay.
Isn't that a lot of points to get in a low-scoring game?
Well, the prediction that it's going to be low scoring is that who set the point spreads via the power ratings and actually don't play the game. So, yeah.
I believe it will be low scoring. These are two good defenses. Houston.
There we go.
Let's talk Houston first. Houston won the league's worst division.
Back, PA.
That's right. Just kick back.
That's why we went first.
Well, it's smart of you to do that.
You want to go grab a sandwich and some coffee real quick?
All right, 3-2.
Houston won the league's worst division. They had a 0-point differential of across the full season against their opponents. Dead even in points scored and points allowed. Now, the Texans' pass rush is very good. You get Will Anderson, you get Danielle Hunter, and they destroyed Justin Herbert, and Will Dissly basically handed balls to the Texans last week. Now, the other part of Houston, what they got cooking that people don't realize, they've got one of the best young secondaries in the league. Derek Stingley, cornerback.
Watch Xavier Worthy run by him like he was tied to a post.
Here's why that won't happen. Derek Stingley, 4.35 speed.
Right.
He's the one guy who can hang with Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, he's going to need it for catch-up speed after Worthy double moves him.
I always love that
The
one.
other guy they've got is this rookie safety named Kamari Lassiter. He's awesome, and he should be in the conversation for Rookie Defensive Player of the Year. I think the secondary is going to create problems for the middling talents of the... Yes?
You guys are onto something here. You're onto something here with this under. It is scheduled tomorrow at the game time to be 23 degrees for a high, a wind chill of 18, the winds 10 to 20 miles per hour with gusts at 40.
I always love that one.
That keeps games close. That keeps games close.
I all the more reason to like Houston to cover this spread.
Okay.
Let's talk Kansas City. How'd they get here? Not counting Week 18 when they rested their starters, they've only lost one game all year, a road loss to Buffalo. And for a 15-win team, Kansas City has got an incredibly low point differential. They're just plus 59 points on the season. You won 15 games, which is weird. Per game, that's only 3.5 points of margin per victory. I can get 8.5 with Houston here.
We have margin rules.
We do have margin rules. I like Kansas City to win straight up, but I like, as you can tell,
channels.
I like Houston to cover the spread. And even if it's they might be down by 10 or 12 or whatever, they get the garbage time touchdown or a garbage time field goal or whatever, and they cover the spread. So I didn't believe in Houston last week. That was a mistake. And normally I feel like a wild card home team that just beat a bad team, which they just did, is going to get rolled in the next round. But I'm just not confident in the Chiefs.
Can we get one? I mean, you're the identity of fantasy football, not only on this radio show, but in this market and quite honestly in the universe.
Yes.
Can we get one player fantasy tout here, like who to use in DFS, or you want to save that for the prop?
Can I tell you who not to use?
Who?
Actually, that is going to come up in the prop block. Let's see somebody that's not going to come up in the prop plop.
Okay.
Let's talk Isaiah Pacheco.
Well, no, let's not talk him. Let's just get a name.
Isaiah Pacheco. I can't say anything more?
Excellent.
Okay.
And then Kareem Hunt snipes all the touchdowns.
You better
I
not.
always love that
Okay,
one.
so the producer and the co-host are on Houston plus the 8.5. Yours truly likes Houston in the first quarter, getting whatever 1 point you would get. And Kansas City minus 8.5 in the game. Let's move to Washington at Detroit. The second game on Saturday, it's a 7 p.m. tilt from Dan Miller's house called Ford Field. The Lions are 9.5 point favorites, and here they are. How about this? Detroit versus true running quarterbacks like Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
Well, Caleb Williams is not a true running quarterback. So I looked up and down this thing. Jaden Daniels is a true running threat that they use as a runner in their offense. All right? But so is Josh Allen. Now, Buffalo's Allen ran for 6.5 a clip and 2 TDs and threw for 362 and 2 against these guys. Now, Washington's off an emotional win. I like the Commanders plus the 9.5. I like them a lot in this spot. I think Jaden is special enough to cover it. And from a fantasy standpoint, I like Zach Ertz as a sneaky sleeper tight end, even with the bad ribs. So I'm on Washington plus 9.5 and Zach Ertz. You, Nordo?
Well, where we deviated last time, we are actually in lockstep, PA. And I like the fact, and he's a rookie and all of that. Jaden Daniels has just, by nature of not knowing any better, has been nothing short of remarkable and terrific this year for Washington. I love them plus the points. And I would if I can get a taste of that plus 360 on the money line for a big spot upset, I'm interested in that this weekend. Let's go plus 360 and beat those kiddies.
You're talking my language. And if I had 100 for this game, I would go 65 on the money line.
Yes.
35, I'll take the 9.5 just in case.
Correct. Absolutely.
I
like
the way
that.
you're moving right now. What about you, the Birch?
We all agree.
We do.
We do. Washington, how they got here.
How stung are we from what the Lions did to us 2 weeks ago? Now all of a sudden I'm rooting for Amik Robertson to get beaten on every double move.
Don't you guys kind of feel like the Vikings made it easy on the Lions? And their trouncing of our Vikings was not indicative of how good this team and especially defense is.
And they get David Montgomery back, which I think is going to jack with something that's working incredibly well with Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, maybe. This is still a defense that was giving up prior to the Vikings rolling over, was giving up 30s and 40s in all these games. And Washington's capable of putting up 30, 35.
Yeah.
This thing could get really, really interesting. The over-under is 55.5, so we're not alone in thinking that. Washington surged down the stretch, including that epic win over Philadelphia like week 15 or so.
Can I interrupt you for a second, Charge?
Yeah.
Commanders. Victory. Commanders. On the warpath. Fight for old DC. Hey.
Sorry, Charge. Continue.
Washington's won 6 straight, during which they've averaged 29 points per game. I mean, you can, 20, if you're doing 29 against normal defenses, what happens when Detroit rolls up with 12 defenders on IR? The Commanders will go as far as Jaden Daniels can take them because they don't have a lot of other weapons. They have Jaden Daniels. They got Terry McLaurin. And that's about it. Some Zach Ertz is not half bad. I mean, it falls off heavily after that. Detroit, though, highest scoring team by a wide margin, 33 points per game. Their 2 losses were to playoff teams, Tampa and Buffalo. They swept the NFC North, and they've won 3 straight games despite all those defenders being on IR. Nevertheless, I feel like Washington keeps this thing within 9.5, even if it's garbage time touchdown to bring it to 9.5. I feel strongly Washington's going to keep this thing close and will score a lot more points, and they'll expose the Lions defense in a way the Vikings could not.
We have a trifecta with Washington plus 9.5.
Oh, the fantasy guy. You want a fantasy angle for this game.
Mm-hmm.
Olamide Zacchaeus and Diami Brown.
Well, you just said they have nothing behind McLaurin.
They
and
don't.
Now we're going to tout Washington L's. What are we doing here?
Well, this Lions secondary is just so ravaged that depth receivers get it done against Detroit.
Here we go.
Jalen Naylor put up 53 against Detroit in their last game. Just saying, you
but
can
didn't
find
get a touchdown. That's sweet.
Did
so
not.
cool. I got 7.2 points and my head cut off.
Nobody got a touchdown for the Minnesota Vikings in that game.
Let's move to the Rams at Eagles. That's a Sunday at 2 p.m. on KFAN. Ben Lieber is the sideline analyst for Westwood One.
Is he really?
Ben Lieber, Ian Eagles calling the game, and Nacho Lieber's the sideline analyst.
That's super cool.
That is sweet. Well deserved and well earned too. The Eagles are 6.5 point favorites at home against the Los Angeles Rams. What about the Kellen Moore distraction? Offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, interviewing today for the head coaching job of the Dallas Cowboys. McVay's potions. What are those potions going to hold this week for perhaps the best coach in the National Football League? Saquon, though, he only went for 302 total a couple of months ago against the Rams. 302 total. Who knew? I like the Rams to cover. Same situation as the Washington game for me, where if I had $1, 65 cents would go to the Rams on the money line. 35 cents will go to the Rams covering. It's an interior pass rush thing for me against the Eagles and messing up what Jalen wants to do. McVay versus Sirianni is a lopsided mismatch, the way of the LA Rams. My fantasy pick, Puka Nacua. Despite getting whooped by the Philadelphia Eagles a couple of months ago, they could not cover Puka, and they won't find him in this game. So I'm on the Rams plus the spot. The con?
Yeah, I'm on the other side on this one. I think the Eagles cover. I think that the way we look at the Rams and his ability to be Houdini, I think that says more about the matchup that we just saw with our favorite team. I think the Eagles are locked and loaded and ready to. I mean, if Washington can beat the Kitties, Philly's going to the Super Bowl through Lincoln Financial. I think they're ready, and as weird as that coach is and all of that, agree on the mismatch. I love their offensive line. They figured out how to make Mekhi Becton work in the NFL at guard. Lane Johnson still kicking. Cam Jurgens has been pretty seamless at center for them. So I like their ability to handle that front that the Vikings couldn't handle. And I do believe that Saquon is something that cannot be stopped, regardless of what they may learn from the previous matchup. I like the Eagles to cover the 6.
Then we're in the second half, and the Rams have the lead by 2, and all we can do is call each other and just go, Nacua, Nacua, Nacua till you're satisfied. Whatever it, Nacua, Nacua till you're satisfied. What about you?
This game, Rams and Philadelphia, by the way, 34 degrees with a high likelihood of precipitation, which brings into play...
Old people get tired and get cold.
Snead.
Yeah.
We could have Snead.
Yeah, but see, the Rams don't have old people inside. They got young people inside who
That's true.
Including Braden Fisk, who he comes from a bastion of collegiate cold weather playing excellence like Florida State. So I'm sure that's
right.
That'll
work out great.
Really going to play in well for the old 6.5.
Los Angeles Rams, but looking back at their season, they weathered the first 7 weeks of the season without Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, came back week 8 with them, beat us, our Vikings, and then basically just won almost every game the rest of the year. Rams defense has sparked to life, allowing... This is the points the Rams have allowed the last 4 games. 6 points, 9 points, 9 points, and 9 points. That's insane.
And except against us, they were only scoring like 20, 19, and 18.
That is true.
Ain't that a
Philadelphia, for most of the year, Eagles have been the most balanced team across the board with a really good run defense and pass defense, and they can run on the ground with Saquon. They can pass through the air with Hurts and Brown and Devontae Smith. Kind of a team without a weakness when everything's clicking for the Eagles.
Until you watch Puka against Darius Slay, and he's too short, and they just throw alley-oops. Hey,
it's possible. But they also have Quinion Mitchell on the other side of the field, and Mitchell's awesome. There is a Cooper versus Cooper matchup in this game. It's Cooper Kupp versus Cooper DeJean. And
I'm surprised
Cooper Kupp has been
exists.
phased out of this offense entirely. It's weird. They don't throw to him.
How about that 1 for 29 on us, though?
One target.
It was a beautiful pass, though.
Yeah,
nobody
sweet.
saw it coming because they never throw him anymore.
Shut down Puka and Cooper and still leave Luke. Anyway, go ahead.
I've got the Eagles winning this game. They've won 10 straight with Jalen Hurts under center. Yeah. They can partially neutralize Puka Nacua with Quinion Mitchell. And against the spread, I still like the Eagles. The Eagles are blowing out most of their opponents, doubling them up. I just feel like the spread is a little too tight here at 6.5. In the last 10 Jalen Hurts starts, the average margin is 14 points. So we're going to take Eagles and Eagles.
And when we return, we are going to share with you who we like in the Ravens at Bills game and also execute a plop prepared by Paul Charchian, delivered by Paul Charchian, and touted by us all. Vikes Bites after that, then Alec Lewis from The Athletic joins us in studio about 35 minutes from now. It's the Friday Football Feast at FM 100.3 KFAN. Your cash thing later.
Yeah, the fan wants to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. You go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword pay, as in P-A-Y, as in pay me that money. You might win $1,000 with the keyword pay at KFAN.com.
Your neighborhood just got cooler with Kroger Delivery's refrigerated trucks. Simply order groceries at the same great prices online as in-store, and we'll bring them to you fresh every time. And if that wasn't cool enough, you can now earn 4 times the fuel points after 4 with your digital coupon. Choose a next-day Kroger delivery time slot for 4 p.m. or later on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Must deliver by February 4th. Restrictions apply. See Kroger.com for details.
All right, before we get to Charge's prop plop, because he ain't in the studio yet, and we will do Ravens and Bills. Ravens -1.5. It's as a road favorite in the final divisional round playoff game this weekend. This one promises to be a doozy, or does it? We'll get into that momentarily. A friend of mine who's an elite, let's just say an elite NFL team equipment mind, just sent me a text listening to the Friday Football Feast and reminded me, because equipment people stick together and they kind of know stuff like this because it involves like cleats and uniforms and manicuring of fields and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
At Lincoln Financial in the Rams-Eagles game. Starts at 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern. Somewhere in the middle of that game, they're supposed to get 3 to 5 inches of snow.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to snow during the game and like snow super hard. I didn't know that.
Would that change you then? Would the idea then be is I like Saquon and the Eagles' ability to kill some clock, control that, dominate on the ground? Or are you sticking with Nakua and the Rams plus the points?
I'm sticking with Rams plus the points. But what it does cause me to, the thought it does trigger is when I hear 3 to 5 inches of snow during the game, takes me back to December 8th of 2013. The Minnesota Vikings at the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh, yeah.
And not for yours truly, because we A, we ain't betting over unders, but B, we ain't betting games. But if we were, and all you rubes on December 8th of 2013 who played the weather game, watched the over-under go from like 48 down to 43 early in the week because weather was supposed to be a thing, and you just dipped into every last water cooler or bucket you have with change and dollar bills hidden so you can smack the under 43 because of the weather.
Yeah.
How right were you after 3 quarters? It was 7-6.
It was.
After 3 quarters. There had been 1 touchdown scored in the game and a couple of field goals. 7-6, and the over-under is 43. And then they get out there and score 42 in the 4th quarter. Under dead.
I mean, we don't like the way that game ended because of the Marlon Brown touchdown and 5 seconds left. And 2013 was a year, by the way, whether it was the Browns, it was the Bears, I think Martellus Bennett, Jordan Cameron, this game where we were right there at the wire and then just took the L. You know, the 1-score loss bit. How cool was that game, though? And how crushing would that have been? I mean, you're sitting there, you've spent the money by the time the 4th quarter begins if you bet the under in that game before insanity ensued.
Well, before we do Ravens and Bills and do the prop plop, Mr. Paul Charchian, we have been informed from an elite in the NFL equipment mind, because all these equipment guys stick together with weather at venues and stuff like that. They're like, well, what did you do here? What did you do there?
Probably a group text.
In the Rams-Eagles game, during the game, there's supposed to be 3 to 5 inches of snow.
Wow.
Okay, so consider that. And for me, since I ain't betting it, I couldn't care less what happens to the point spread, but it caused yours truly to hearken to December 8th of 2013, where the Vikings were at the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh, man.
The
what a
over-under started at 48 and a half.
Yeah.
The learned sharps played the weather game early in the week. The over-under went down 5 to 43. At the end of three quarters, it was 7-6. It was 7-6, I think, Ravens.
Yep.
One touchdown, 7-6, end of the third quarter.
And
you've tripled everything
Yes.
because you know how bad this is going to be.
Yes.
And you can't throw in it. And the Vikings were bad in the first place. They were like 3-8-1 into the game, something like that. And hadn't won a road game all year. 7-6 after 3. So you got 13 points. Over-under's 43. Holy cow.
Here comes Cordero Patterson.
And Marlon Brown. 42 points combined in the fourth quarter. Not even overtime. And
I love these names, man.
Yeah, and did we win?
Toby Gerhardt.
No. God.
Toby Gerhardt.
The names.
All right, let's fly through this part so we can do the prop plop. Ravens at Bills. This is 5:30 on Sunday. Final wild card game. Divisional round game. Baltimore's favored by 1.5. I like Baltimore to steamroll the Buffalo Bills in this game. I like Baltimore to win the game by. It would be one of those. I will take Baltimore minus 1.5, 3.5. 7.5.
Ladder bet.
And then give me a little bit on the minus 10.5, but not that much. You can go ahead and slow down, ma'am. So I would do that, and I don't really have a fantasy opinion. Nordo?
Do you remember? Well, hold on. Do you remember the last time you and I ladder bet the Baltimore Ravens?
Against
just
the
like
Giants.
that. That's right. In Las Vegas.
Yeah, 25 years ago.
20. It was like 20. It was Billick era.
Smacked it.
You and I remember this is back in the days when radio stations would have huge epic events and away locations like Las Vegas. Yeah. All of our listeners would come in. Although I guess we kind of did that with the feast in Las Vegas last year. So
do you remember when I saw Charles Barkley run across the bridge from New York to the MGM Grand?
I don't.
Because he had just bet X amount of dollars on the Patriots on the money line at like plus 575 to beat the Rams, and he eventually would scoop. But there were members of the New York security team chasing him because he didn't have requisite money on his marker. And some rube was afraid to say, "You're Charles Barkley. You don't have enough money on your marker."
Right.
And just gave him the tickets for like $50,000 on the Rams on the money line. And he was right, and he scooped and replenished the marker. And I'm walking across the bridge. Hey, that's Charles Barkley.
Running at me.
Why is he running? And then I see these
security
two
chasing
rubes
him
in suits like a minute later trying. Anybody see Charles Barkley? No, I think I saw Dikembe Mutombo, God rest his soul, walk that way, but no, nothing with Chaz. Who do you like here, Nordo?
I like the Ravens in this game. We talked about it earlier in the open. I think I don't like the steamroll factor. They did absolutely just wax them earlier this year in Baltimore. Josh Allen having the best year of his career from a turnover standpoint. I think he's truly an MVP in this league, in this conversation. The problem is that he's going up against a guy that, other than via voting fatigue, should be the MVP. And that's Lamar Jackson. They're going to run all over Buffalo.
The Birch.
Baltimore got here. They started the season 0-2. Then they reeled off 13 wins in 16 games the rest of the way. And Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry have emerged as the best 1-2 punch in the NFL. Ravens' run defense was the league's best for most of the season.
Who's
and
that backup? Justice Hill?
Justice Hill, he's good.
Yeah,
he's got
he was
a little
nice
juice
last game.
Yeah, it's a really nice counter to what Derrick Henry does. The pass defense for the Ravens was the league's worst up until Thanksgiving or so, and then they did one thing.
Turn it around.
They moved Kyle Hamilton to free safety.
They turned that beat around.
He had been playing like in the slot up near the line of scrimmage, and they decided to let him be more of a rangy rover Harrison Smith type.
Sauce hated him in the draft, and we all told Sauce he'd be wrong.
Exactly. Since then, they're basically the best pass defense in the NFL.
Jeez.
So now there's really nowhere to attack the Ravens because their run defense has always been great. The pass defense has really improved. They can run on you with Derrick Henry. They can pass on you, obviously, with Lamar Jackson. No Zay Flowers in this game, which is a sizable loss.
That's not a no.
Their best receiver.
He's not a no.
He's a no.
But they haven't scratched him.
Not officially, but he has yet to practice.
Okay.
So we're assuming. I'm assuming he's not going to go.
We'll see.
Now, for Buffalo, everybody walking into this season assumed that this team would struggle without Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. They had lost 300 wide receiver targets were all gone.
241
like that.
Yeah, and also 395 headaches.
Yeah, well, that too, right? But they got solid contributions from Khalil Shakir when I think most people did not know that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Now, Buffalo started the season wobbly. Both these teams did. Through 2 games, to the first 2 weeks of the season, the Bills and the Ravens had 1 win between them.
Ooh.
But then Buffalo has rattled off 12 of the last 13 games. The Bills' offense rocking. They've topped 30 points in 10 of the last 11 games.
Yeah.
And all 3 of their losses this year were to playoff teams.
All right. With your prop plop.
Yes.
Okay. Are you to that yet? Is it cool?
I can be.
If I segue there?
Sure.
Okay. Now you have 6 of them. And if you could give us an average of 30 seconds on each one, we'll only miss the straddle by 90 seconds. All right. So let's start here. Why do you I'll read it and you tell us why you like it. Kansas City running backs Samaje Perine more than 9.5 receiving yards versus Houston.
He's their designated pass catching back, and he's on the field in all of their long down and distance situations. They do not use Pacheco and Hunt in those situations. Houston as a team, has allowed opposing running backs through the air to top the 9.5 receiving yards in 15 of 18 games, and Perine has topped this line in 12 of 13 games. So all the trends here are for Samaje Perine to catch over 9.5 receiving yards.
Okay.
How was that for 30 seconds? You thought I couldn't do it.
This feels like that Sony Michel rushing prop from a few years ago.
Yeah.
Still bitter?
I couldn't find the buzzer on the snob page, but I did find, hey.
Oh.
I'm only playing it for 18 seconds. Ain't nobody going to get fired.
Here we go.
Stop hyperventilating, corner offices. Hey, wow. Hey, I'll play this for 18. Ooh. I can't find Samaje Perine on my prop sheet. That's it. 18 seconds. Dallas Goedert, more than 37.5 receiving yards versus the Rams, and more than 3.5 receptions. Give it to us.
Over the final 5 weeks of the regular season, the Rams have allowed the most yards to tight ends, 76 per game. I only need Dallas Goedert to do half of that, 35.5. Mm-hmm. Over those same final 5 games, LA allowed the 3rd most tight end receptions, 7 per game. And I need him to hit the over on 3.5 receptions. So that's just half of that as well. Last Monday night, the Vikings could do nothing against the Rams except hit their tight ends, who went for 97 yards against the Rams. Before that, they gave up 12 catches, 123 yards to Trey McBride.
You can't go over the buzzer. It's the straddle. It's life-changing.
You're guessing with the buzzer. That
James
was not 30
Cook.
seconds.
Okay, now we have Buffalo and Baltimore. James Cook, less than 55.5 rushing yards versus your Ravens.
Ravens' run defense so good. Only 2 backs all season topped this line of 56.5. And one of them was not James Cook, who only had 39 rushing yards in the earlier matchup between these teams. Baltimore's defense ranks number 1 in rushing yards allowed, number 1 in yards per carry, number 2 in run defense success rate, and number 1 in yards after contact.
Oh, you had a half second to spare. Terry McLaurin, Washington at Lions. Terry McLaurin, more than 68.5 receiving yards.
The Lions are down to 2 healthy cornerbacks, one of which is rookie Terrion Arnold, who's not very good. And Arnold's rookie season, he's Pro Football Focus's cornerback 111. And good cornerbacks give up like 20 yards per game. Bad cornerbacks give up 40 yards per game. Terrion Arnold's giving up 82 yards per game in his coverage. It is bad. That's an exploitable matchup. And this passing offense, they got to throw plenty. Washington does. Terry McLaurin's the focus of the passing offense. We'll try him over 67.5.
Look at my phone. Told you I was taking time. Right. You only went a second over. All right. Ty Johnson. That's a Buffalo running back, right?
Yep.
Ty Johnson to score the last touchdown of the game against the Ravens, and we are getting 33-1.
33-1.
Which means you put up 100 and you win it and you scoop $3,400 in there.
Here we go. Johnson is on the field a ton because Ray Davis is in the concussion protocol, probably doesn't go. Mm-hmm. And he is their designated pass catching back. And if you think there's any scenario where the Bills aren't going to be running out the clock at the end of the game, like it's close, it's a back and forth battle. If you think the Bills are going to be playing catch up, then they're going to be passing a lot. And he is their pass catching back.
Ooh.
And the Ravens allowed the 4th most receiving yards to runners this year. So I'm just trying to find a Ty Johnson angle plus 3,300, 33 to 1 to score the final touchdown of the game.
Joe Mixon, lastly, less than 57.5 rushing yards versus the Chiefs.
Put up 57 rushing yards against Kansas City in the previous matchup, but the Kansas City's run defense is good. 11 different times they've held the opposition's runner to under this amount, and 9 different times they've held opposing number 1 runners to under 36 yards. That's way under this line. Houston is a good has a bad offensive line. They rank 30th in run block win rate, and Kansas City ranks 4th in yards per carry allowed, 4th in yards after contact, and 4th in missed tackles.
Oh, you had a second and a half to spare. That's the prop plop that makes up 9 to noon.
KFAN is my favorite station.
Back after this.
Fan.
Vikes Bites.
Thank you to Matt and everybody at Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef for bringing you Vikes Bites 9 to noon on a daily basis. Thousand Hills, by the way, unbelievable product. You can shop online. A box of meat, delicious meat, will show up at your doorstep. It's local. It's Clearwater, Minnesota's finest. You can go to your local Coburns and local co-ops locations as well. And they're proud sponsors. They not only love the purple, but they're proud sponsors of Gophers Athletics as well. How about that buzzer beater last night? To Vikes Bites. As we've talked about a bit this week, it's moving day, or it was on Tuesday, players cleaning out their lockers. And running back Cam Akers was speaking to the media. Here's Cam Akers.
What's kind of the emotions in the last 12 hours?
Obviously, nobody happy that we lost. Emotions probably all over the place for everybody, but kind of just taking it in and getting back to the drawing board, you know. No crying about it at this point. It is what it is, just learning from it and trying to build on it.
Yeah, what have you been thinking about reflecting on like this kind of short stint here this season?
It's been great. It's been great. I'm grateful to be able to come in and contribute. I'm grateful that they allowed me to come in and contribute in any way I could, as much as I could. And we'll see what the future holds.
Do you expect to be back here signing that?
We'll see. I hope though. I do hope so. Yeah, I hope so. So just got to see. We just got to see.
So that's Cam Akers talking to the media, and that's where I wanted to start with you gentlemen. Myriad free agents, and there's a lot to get into with all of them, talkers galore, but specifically with Cam Akers. As Aaron Jones wore down, and Charts, you can take me deep if I'm wrong on this, I felt like Cam Akers was actually the better back over the final few games, and actually more explosive at times than Aaron Jones. And Cam Akers providing that quality, that veteran presence and reliability that sadly Ty Chandler could not. Scored a touchdown against us week 3 as a Texan, and weeks later then as a Viking again. So the idea that Cam Akers could return and maybe fill the same role that he has really the last 2 seasons for the Purple. Your thoughts?
Yeah, to me, he's a depth guy. If he's the backup here,
well, yeah,
okay.
Filling the same role. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, just as a backup, change of pace guy who's not going to give the ball away. He's just going to. He takes what the Vikings offensive line can give him, and doesn't make a lot of mistakes. I wish we had a pure. Speaking of backup running backs, I wish we had a great pass catching second running back. Somebody who on 3rd and 5, if he's on the field, you don't know if it's going to be a draw play, a run play, or potentially a pass to that player. We haven't had that in a long time, and Cam Akers isn't that guy. Ty Chandler's not that guy. I think he'll be gone after this season. And I'd be okay with Cam here, but again, I'd like to have a backup running back who's really an ace in the pass catching department.
You want Samaje Perine is what you want.
I want Samaje.
I love Cam Akers, and this is going to be short. I love him because it's to push through those 2 Achilles.
Unbelievable.
To practice the way that man does. Yep. To patiently roll up to the line of scrimmage, find the right hole 9.6 out of 10 times, and put the pedal to the metal to the best of his ability with those Achilles, and to push through sickness and injuries and things like that to play. I'm a Cam Akers fan, and I really hope he's on the team next year.
Real quick, Chart, or maybe it doesn't end up being quick. That's up to you. But Aaron Jones, do you think he returns?
No. I don't. And it's not because Aaron didn't play well, and by the way, we got 17 games out of him.
Yeah.
We were told he would never hold up for a full season, and yet he did. But we have to get our offensive line and our running back in a position when it's goal to go at the 2-yard line, you're going to score. And that's just not Aaron Jones, and that's not where this offensive line is right now. One of the key problems for the Vikings that resulted in L's is an inability to be able to run the ball inside the 5 and score touchdowns. Aaron Jones, I believe he's negative yards on carries inside the 5-yard line. I think he's sitting at like -3, and I believe he only scored 3 touchdowns. This is what we got on Alexander Mattison last year too. We need a bigger power back, and we need a different interior offensive line that can push people forward and help us here. And I don't think that's going to be Aaron Jones. We love Aaron Jones. He is a great dude, and he is a talented runner. I don't think he should be our number 1 back next year. It's the deepest running back class coming maybe ever.
Hey.
I believe we will have a rookie running back that we take day 3 as our starter.
Vikes Bites, Neon Light, Nordo Light.
Vikes Bites! Thank you, Thousand Hills. Justin Jefferson, I played some audio from him earlier this week as well, but here he is talking about working to beat double and triple teams.
I don't know. That's difficult, to really prepare to go up against double teams and triple teams. I mean, at the end of the day, there's really not too much you can really do. There's not really too much you can really prepare for or to work your way around. At the end of the day, it's 2-3 different guys that's trying to stop you from getting the ball and doing what you normally do. So it's just all about just working harder.
Charge, is there anything that one of the best wide receivers in the NFL can improve on this offseason?
Who am I to say that Justin Jefferson can improve on anything? I mean, he's just I don't have an answer for how to make Justin Jefferson better, because that's way out of my class, and he's already fantastic. I would like to find more ways to script him the ball more often. And when I look at, for example, how the Rams use Puka Nacua, they always get the ball to Puka Nacua. I mean, there are no games where he's sitting on 2 catches. Puka, they always find ways. So I guess for me, it would be more of a coaching scheme approach that's like, okay, no matter what, we're going to get no less than 6 targets at Justin Jefferson in any given game. And I feel like there are these dip games where we just go, all right, they're double teaming him or they're bracketing him and Justin. So, we're just going to find other players. Sometimes I think you gotta find ways to get the ball in his hands, because it's special. It's special when you do. And I don't want to see more of the dip games like that Chicago game with 2 catches for 27 yards.
Yep.
The Detroit game with 3 catches. Let's go make sure that we're getting enough requisite targets at Justin Jefferson. I'm looking back at his game log now, and he does almost always get 7 targets, but I'd like to work even harder on that.
Not that you care what I think. That was the direction I was hoping you'd take that question. You were correct in my mind. Final Vike Bite for you, Charge, and this is obviously a hypothetical. Ben Johnson interviewing for head coaching jobs. Brian Flores now being named as a potential candidate for head coaching jobs. Who suffers more? The Vikings and figuring out the defense after Brian Flores, or the Lions and that offense if Ben Johnson leaves?
I think the Vikings would suffer more. One of the questions I've asked both PA and Alec over the course of the last month or so on various Friday football feasts is, if Brian Flores leaves, who's the heir apparent that can come in and do many of the same kinds of things? And nobody's really seems to have an answer for that. I don't feel like we've got sort of like next man up here. And I don't know enough about the Lions coaching staff to know that there's somebody ready to walk into Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson's spot. Brian Johnson, my Fantasy Football Weekly co-host, who will BTXJ. He will be on the show this afternoon. But here's what I do know. They have Jared Goff and David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams and Tim Patrick and Sam Laporta. Man, you can be a mid-tier level coach and still get a lot of production out of those guys. I feel like our scheme was responsible for a lot of the Vikings' defensive success. And man, I more so than talent. In fact, I think a lot of people played over their talent level this year. So I feel like the Vikings need Flores more than the Lions need Ben Johnson.
Correct again, Charge. That is Vikes Bites, brought to you by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. Around the corner, Alec Lewis of The Athletic will be in studio for most of the final hour as the Friday Feast continues right here on The Fan.